All right, cool. Adam, I guess you're a songwriter. How would you tell someone to write their first song? How would you go about
To write their first song?
writing their first song?
Oh wow! I mean, my kids write songs. They're like 7 and 3. They just basically sing something and it's a song. I mean, there's not really any rules about it, but you know, I mean, I think there's a sort of a craft to it that you get more used to as you do it more. But when you're a kid, you just write something because you have something you want to write about, and you just sing something, and that's a song.
Is that how you started?
Pretty much. I mean, I took piano lessons as a kid, so I was playing instruments, but yeah, just it's basically just started as a kid trying to imitate the Beatles, and I was already operating on a much higher level than the Beatles at that age. But no, I'm just kidding. I just I always would sit at the piano and make stuff up. And even when I used to take piano lessons, I used to be more interested in making up my own stuff than in actually practicing what I was supposed to be learning.
Mm-hmm.
So.
You is that your primary? Do you think in piano because you play bass in your band?
Yeah, I play bass. I mean, piano is a great instrument to start on just because it's a foundation for everything else, and it helps you get a sense of the chord structures and things like that. I think maybe more easily than if you start on bass or guitar.
Mm-hmm. Did you choose bass? I know you're into the Beatles, so like for a Paul McCartney tribute, or
I actually didn't start playing guitar or bass until high school. And I think the reason I did is because I hated being the keyboard player in a band. I mean, I played in bands when I was in middle school, and I didn't like being the guy standing in the back. I wanted to be able to run around a little bit, so I started learning bass.
So when you start your song process, I've read elsewhere that you write for a purpose. So if you're asked to write a song for a commercial or a movie,
Mm-hmm.
you'll write it with that in mind, or
Yeah.
you're writing for a band.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of need to know who's going to be singing the song. I think that's the primary thing, and in the bands that I play in, I'm at least thinking about the singer and what their vibe is, and obviously if it's a movie or a TV thing or something, then usually there's a very specific assignment for that as well. I have a hard time just sitting around and kind of writing in a vacuum for myself. I don't tend to do that.
So do you ever when you're writing a Tinted Window song, ever find something that would work great for Fountains of Wayne or vice versa?
Not really. I mean, I think I play in 3 bands, and each band has a very distinct singer with a different kind of personality. So there's not really a lot of overlap.
Mm-hmm. So when you're writing a song, do you just default to whatever you're working on? You don't have like a band identity? You're flexible that way?
You mean my own? I mean,
Yeah.
I think my own personality comes through, and when I'm writing for whatever it is, I think that just happens naturally. But I try to focus more on, treating it like an assignment and trying to think about the parameters of what it's for.
Is that lyrically? I mean, how do you...
I mean, both lyrically and musically. I tend to write lyrics first a lot of the time, or at least have some kind of lyrical idea going. Maybe not an entire lyric, but I like to have a title or a few lines. That helps me focus the whole thing.
How'd you start writing lyrics? Did you go through poetry or?
Yeah, I when I was younger, I was, I think like everybody, I would just imitate my heroes, my songwriting heroes, and so I would write stuff that sounded like fake Beatles songs or fake Elvis Costello songs or fake Joe Jackson songs or something, and then eventually you just start finding ways to have your own voice. But again, I feel like a bit of a chameleon because a lot of times what I'm doing is almost trying to write something that will come out of the mouth of someone else. So it's almost like less about my personality and more about what I think they can put across.